Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the PlotCast. I'm your host, Nate Slater.
And I'm Chris Sandbrook, and today we are going to be discussing why comedies just aren't funny anymore.
The reason why we're bringing this up here in this podcast is because we're just coming off of seeing, Happy Gilmore 2, and this isn't going to be a review necessarily this time. More or less, we're just discussing kind of like the state of comedy in general in films. So there'll be a light little spoilers of the new Happy Gilmore movie and our review on it, kind of, I guess. But overall, we were disappointed. And we got to thinking, what's wrong? There's something wrong with comedies and cinema nowadays, and we're here to talk about it. So, going off of
Yeah.
what I just said, Chris, take it away.
So as far as comedies this year alone, I've seen maybe three or four. And while I've still enjoyed them, it's not necessarily just because they're all out comedies. You don't have too many all out comedies anymore. Um, and that was kind of like a big thing in the 80s, 90s. Now, like, they have to be attached to some kind of action movie, a horror movie or something. They have to have something else bigger going for it because the comedy isn't the main focus anymore. They may be listed under comedy, but the last one we just watched was what? Fight or Flight.
Yeah.
And for people who haven't seen that, it's very akin to Bullet Train. It's very focused into action, as it is also in the comedy. A lot of the comedy comes from the action or reactions to the violence that's happening. And while that's fun and it makes for a very fun movie, there's nothing wrong with that. It wouldn't necessarily just stand out as a comedy. And I'm looking through the movies that I have seen lately. I guess Heads of State, that also kind of fits that. It's not just a comedy. It's advertised as a comedy, and that was released on Amazon Prime, and that is very focused on the action side of it.
Yeah. And
Again,
going attaching to that, there's the show on Netflix, Boo Bar, Arnold Schwarzenegger's kind of action comedy, which the first season was great. I know you haven't seen the second season yet, but it was lackluster in kind of like the story department, and thus they canceled the show after the second season. So, it seems like there's a lot more geared towards action comedies rather than like situational or um, just like normal, like your normal coming of age kind of comedies that there used to be. There's a lot more action comedies now because I think, you know, the consensus is a lot of the culture out there doesn't really appreciate a lot of the old raunchy comedy kind of stuff. And I get it to a point, but I grew up on that kind of stuff. And, comedy itself is not supposed to be taken seriously. That's why it's funny.
right.
But
Yeah, just pointing and laughing at situations or jokes isn't we're not necessarily laughing at the bad things that are happening to certain types of people. I think that's where the big misconception is. There's um a victim mentality when some people watch some comedy movies where they go, "Oh, you're just making fun of X group. You're just making fun of this group, you're making fun of that group." And it's like, no, we're pointing out that there is an issue involving these groups. They usually issue oriented. Um, and like, so one movie that got absolutely bombed before people even went to see it was The Ringer. And that was, again, it wasn't very tasteful as a movie as a whole.
yeah.
Uh, but you had Johnny Knoxville pretending to be handicapped in some manner. He's not very good at acting, so his handicap wasn't very believable in the main sense. But he joined the Special Olympics. that the idea was to rig the Special Olympics so that he could win money or something. Um,
And
and of
yeah, that
course,
sounds really bad.
yeah,
First of
it
all.
sounds really bad. And the idea was, yeah, his character was a bad person.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the point, was, you know, he then joined this group. He learned their struggles. They had fun together. He realized what a great group of people they were and how shitty he was for pretending to be like them.
Yeah.
And then he grew as a character.
Which is
And
great.
yeah, and you got to see, you know, some of the struggles that they had and some of the ways that they overcome adversity and people talking down on them or this, that, and the other. So while critics smashed that movie before it even came out, uh, and yeah, again, it wasn't necessarily hilarious. There are
Yeah.
some great lines in that movie, and they catch you off guard, and it can be funny. Um, but the reason people smashed it and the reason people smash on a lot of comedy movies before they even come out is just because of the victim mentality. They and it's not even the people who are being made fun of. It's people who are offended for a different group, who have no stake in it whatsoever. And it's really annoying, but I think the problem with that mentality and the problem with everyone having a voice on the internet and throwing it out there saying this movie is trash before it even releases, because of this, is that other comedy movies as they come out now will not take risks, will not joke about things.
And
And
the funny
now,
thing that you're saying about that is even, what was it? Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back made a whole joke about about that with the internet. The internet,
yeah,
is ready to go up in arms about anything that they care about, which, we are all entitled to our own opinions and have a certain place for certain things in our hearts too. But, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't give something a shot before you shoot it down.
right, exactly. And just because you've got an opinion about something doesn't mean everyone else agrees. But I think what a lot of people do is they say, well, if you don't agree with me, then you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're a this, they throw titles on people like, well, I'm not like that. I guess I have to hate this movie now.
Yeah.
So it creates that kind of mentality behind it, and it prevents people from taking risks, giving people something to really laugh at. And people can't laugh at themselves anymore. Everyone has to be super serious. What's up with
Yeah.
that?
I mean, and the thing is, going back to the movie you were just talking about, I can't remember the name now, but the Johnny Knoxville movie,
Yeah, The Ringer. Yeah.
The Ringer. I saw that when it came out. I didn't think it was that funny of a movie. Like you said, it had its moments, but the people who were involved, they got real people who really struggle with these issues. And they had a blast and they were fine. They got paid to be there. They were happy to do it. Maybe some happier than others, but it they they themselves brought it to the forefront of, the world. And, yeah, I think it was a good thing for them. Now, in other situations with other people, not necessarily in comedy, shutting down things for other people in their own diverse climate, that's a different story. But as far as comedy goes, it worked because the people who had the issues got behind it and were allowed to be a part of it.
Yeah.
But
And yeah, I think like if you look back a lot of the really good comedies that we look back and say, oh, those are classics. I don't think they're the types of movies that would be made today. One
no,
of the big things that was recently resurfaced was we had Mike Myers talking about wanting to come back as Austin Powers.
yeah.
And I don't think Austin Powers would work, and not even necessarily him coming back. Obviously, he'd be an older Austin Powers, and there's a lot of other issues that might fall into that. But if you made the original Austin Powers today, you've got characters like Fat Bastard that instantly, "Oh, you're fat shaming, and like, there's just a lot of things that it wouldn't work today.
I
People
mean,
would just hate it immediately.
I mean, it would kind of work if they went into that dynamic to where he's like, "You can't call me fat," but make it funny like that kind of thing. But
Maybe.
it would still be harder to do because the thing that made it funny is you took this 1960s kind of womanizer and brought him into the 90s, and he was still trying to be that way. And this was before things started blowing up. But, they were making it in that movie like, "Yo, it's not okay to do this anymore, dude." And, they had fun with it, and it worked for that time because we weren't where we are now. But if they were to do that now, I don't know if it would work,
Yeah,
especially with
well, I
movies like
mean,
Tropic Thunder.
the biggest theme with Austin Powers was the womanizing. And that I feel like they would immediately push that aside and be like,
Yeah.
nope, you can't do that. Not at all.
What the thing is with each Austin Powers movie, he grew. It's not like he
He
stayed the
did.
same.
Yeah, and that's the point that a lot of people are missing. You can't know about the growth in the movie if you don't even see it. If you look at the
Exactly.
trailer and go, "They're making fun of these people," you can't watch it, then you will never understand what the movie has to say. You're just looking at a couple of jokes that were thrown into a trailer and hating on it. That's it. There's nothing else to it at that point.
And the thing that's kind of funny, thinking about an even older movie where, we were talking about The Ringer, you know, in the 80s, they had a movie called Revenge of the Nerds. And basically, it was kind of like a nerds versus jocks kind of scenario. Kind of like people back then used to view nerds as like really like kind of like goofy people, you know.
Who take the fun out of
Yeah,
everything,
yeah,
and
they're
yeah,
just too scientific, too smart, and it really showed. The movie actually showed you that these are people just like the jocks. Basically, they like women, they like this. They just have a different way of liking things and different way of going about things, and it shows that throughout the movies they also show their strengths versus their weaknesses. Yeah, you got the jocks who are big and strong, but you got the nerds that are smart and very creative, and it, it's another way of showing people, hey, these are people with personalities. They may not be the same as you, but you know, we're just gonna take that whole idea and make it fun,
yeah,
even though it was a raunchy comedy. But
yeah. I think actually, now that I think about it, some of the stuff going back, a lot of the best memorable comedies are movies that don't necessarily make fun of groups of people and more or less make fun of the main character or a inanimate object, right? Like, for instance, you have Pineapple Express that is joking about the reaction of our main characters and their reaction to drugs
yeah,
specifically. And while you may have some killjoys out there going, "You're just promoting drugs," well, yeah, they're fun though.
I know we're not promoting drugs on this video.
No, no, we're not. But yeah, I mean, obviously in that movie, pot was the go-to there, and most places have it legalized or it to an extent at the very least. So it doesn't have as big a stigma as it did when that movie was released.
Yeah,
Um, but it still came out to, a very good reaction. And I don't know. Not many people will really complain about it, but I feel like if you did it today, that would be the first thing people would start complaining about. You're
and
just promoting drugs.
the funny thing is I didn't want to even see that movie. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be a stupid movie about drugs. I don't want to see it. And you're like, no, you got to watch it. It's hilarious. You got me to watch it. Funniest movie I've seen in years.
Yeah.
And I it was totally something I wouldn't really like get behind and think was funny. Because we have like the old Cheech and Chong movies. That I don't know if they really hold up today or not, but I didn't really get them when I was a kid, so I was kind of looking at this movie like, I'm probably not gonna find it funny at all. I was dead wrong, dead wrong.
Hilarious. And it really is one of those movies that's laughing from start to finish.
Yeah,
And you don't have too much of that today. Like, going back to the movies that I've seen recently, while Heads of State was pretty funny, it was too politically charged. Happy Gilmore too, they lost me halfway through.
Yeah,
Like, it was a struggle to get to the end.
yeah, the first half
Um,
of the movie, I will say, I thought was decent. It kind of kept with the same kind of tone as the first movie, and then when you get to the second half, it just went completely bonkers, and I was just like totally taken out of the movie, and I was like, why? I was hoping this wouldn't be like this. Yeah, there are people out there that really love the sequel. Us, not so much.
yeah.
It
I feel like, well, for one, like, it feels like they just brought back characters just to bring them back, like it was expected, like Ben Stiller's character. But the problem with bringing him back is, like, he was nothing like his original character to begin
exactly.
with.
Even though they
So,
made him kind of like bad at the end of the movie, but I was like,
yeah, it
eh.
it was whatever. Um, and then you go to the other movies that we were just talking about, Fight or Flight. That was entertaining, and it
Yes.
was funny at parts, but again, it's not. I don't look at that and go, "That's a comedy." I look at that and say, "That's a action movie with some comedy in it."
Yeah.
Another example of that would be Death of a Unicorn. Although I will say its comedy was actually hilarious. Um, but it's not the type of comedy that's for everyone because there's gore in it,
Yeah.
that cuts down its viewership by a significant amount.
I mean, you could
Um,
even say Deadpool and Wolverine was an action comedy and
yeah,
slash superhero movie,
right. The
but that was
problem
really good.
is, again, it's rated R more for violence than
Yeah.
anything else. They're not
Right.
saying, "Oh, the things they say are so bad it's an R rating." No,
Even though if you stay past the credits.
yeah. But no,
Uh,
it's yeah, Death of the Unicorn has Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd is great with situational awareness. He gets into his
yeah.
characters. We've all seen it, and he can be really funny. And I think that's what made that movie hilarious, along with some of the other, jokes and actions involved. Um and I definitely suggest it. Take a look at it. I know you haven't seen it, Nate. Check
No,
it out. It is
I will.
funny. Um, but yes, the gore is kind of the central focus, right? It's a horror movie. It- from beginning to end, it's the typical setup of a horror movie. You know, remote cabin out where, signals don't work anymore, and, you can't call for help in any way possible. Um, and the comedy, I feel, is more the characters' reactions to certain horrible things going on around them, and you could have easily made this a horror movie and just had their reactions differently. So again, I don't really count it as a comedy. um there's honestly, do we have what is the closest thing we've had recently to Pineapple Express, where it's just funny from start to finish? Yeah,
Couldn't
yeah,
tell
I'm
you.
I'm
Couldn't tell you.
I'm lost there too.
I mean, I'm
Uh,
not saying that there isn't one out there, but it's probably buried under Hollywood political stuff that they don't want us to see it.
right, yeah. There's definitely a lot of politics in movies these
Yeah.
days. And while Heads of State, it was done well enough that politics wasn't shoved down your throat. It was more situational. You have these two leaders of countries, and it's obviously political at that point. You know what you're getting yourself into.
I mean, even a
But
difference of the new Ghostbusters movies, the two new Ghostbusters movies versus the two old Ghostbusters movies. Yes, the two new Ghostbusters movies had some comedy in it, but if you want to compare the comedy to the 80s movies, I felt like the comedy hit a little bit more because it was more like,
it was intelligent humor, it
yes,
was slapstick humor, it was horror humor. Like, they tried to do every situation and add a little humor here and there so that it is funny from start to finish. Whereas the new ones, I mean, you've got a little more serious vibes, teenage angst.
yeah.
They didn't necessarily feel like Ghostbuster movies to me. And I think that was the key.
I think Afterlife had more of a Ghostbusters feel, but it was more grounded. They had little hints of comedy, but it wasn't these group of scientists just happening to turn into Ghostbusters because it's do or die for them. Then you get Frozen Empire, where it kind of goes a little cartoony and kind of takes you a little bit out of the I mean, yes, it was trying to be a little bit more cartoon funny rather than
I think
situational
that was,
serious
yeah,
comedy.
that was coming down to the whole let's focus on children. We want children to
Yes.
watch this. Let's focus on things what kids want to see, as
Yes.
opposed to what the first two movies were even about.
Yeah, because the
It
first two weren't even for kids. They just ended up, the whole, I guess, the whole spiritual aspect and how the fact that it was funny just appealed to kids.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
just did.
Honestly, I remember watching it at such a young age. I don't think I truly understood most of the stuff that was going on.
Same here. I was probably like 3, 4 years old when I first saw that movie, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Who are you gonna call? Someone else. Casper,
Casper,
folks.
right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
forgot about that reference. So again, they appealed to kids early on too.
Yes.
But for comedies that don't necessarily appeal to kids, you had 40-Year-Old Virgin, right? It was, again, making fun of someone who didn't really progress in life the way the average person does. And it was, I don't think he was making fun of it necessarily any specific groups. Of course, they do have the infamous line, "You want to know how I know you're gay? Listen to Coldplay." And
Yeah.
I know that that is the kind of thing that people would complain about now. You
Yeah.
know, oh, you hate gays? That's not where that was going. Um, so uh, but overall, as a movie, I feel like it could still stand today, but they'd be taking a lot away. Like had their views on women and stuff like that would have
Yeah.
to change, unless you just want them to be despicable characters, which in a sense was their purpose, right? Like you knew that some of the guys were just, piss, do this, that, um, but it wasn't necessarily looked down upon as it is
Yeah.
today. Uh,
And that goes back to like old Rodney Dangerfield movies. He was one of those guys who kind of not sure if he really did, but in his movies and his jokes, women weren't necessarily in his mind equal to him.
right,
Um,
exactly.
and moving away from that, another thing we could talk about is a lot of Mel Brooks movies. God, surprisingly, he's still alive. The guy's 98 years old. He's gonna come out with Spaceballs 2. Definitely gonna be his last feature film of his life. Maybe we'll get one more. The guy could live forever. Hopefully, save him.
Yeah,
um, but this every movie that he's done is like a spoof movie. Like he's the king of the spoof movies.
yeah.
But the thing is, he never held back. I don't know if
This one
Spaceballs
will.
2
I
will
I
be
don't
able
think it
to.
needs to, because because Star Wars itself has put itself in such a horrible position.
Yes.
Their movies have been declining, their shows have been declining. People are voicing their opinions, and most of us feel the same. That they're catering to the wrong audience. You're not catering to the fans. You're just catering to you know people so that you don't have any negatives attached to your movie. But then that brings the entire thing down.
Yeah.
It
We're
has
not
no
sa- we're not
story, it has
saying
no.
we're not saying first of all, we're not saying that, you know, Disney is, trying to single anybody out or not single anybody out. They're trying to hit we know for sure they're trying to hit the max demographic that they can. But the issue is that, it kind of detracts from the story, or at least the original stories that it went to. It wasn't really about a type of
Right.
people,
Yeah, and I think that was
or a
kind
type
of
of
the big
demographic.
issue right at the beginning, right? Because they were saying, well, this is for everyone. It isn't necessarily for the people who used to love it. Well, if it's not for the people who used to love Star Wars, why even calling it Star Wars?
Yeah.
Make something else at that point, right?
Yeah. And,
Uh, it's kind of dumb, It's like I don't know. It's like having Spider-Man movies without Spider-Man.
The best way to put it is that when Star Wars first came out, it was like this. It had a focused narrative focused on a select group of individuals, not when I say individuals, I don't mean race, ethnicity, or anything like that.
Just
And
characters.
just characters. It had a focus group, and that's what they focused on. But now they have to split with this whole thing. They split their whole entire, attention to, the wider universe, if you want to just think of it that way, of people on the planet. And they're trying to appease everybody. And in doing so, I feel like it's kind of collapsed in on itself to where you're trying to appease everybody, but you're almost appeasing nobody.
Yeah. Because
That
none of those extra people that you've brought in like any of the other pieces other than the one specific piece you made for them. And when everyone just has a piece of the movie, the whole movie fails.
Yeah, just get a good story, go with the story, and if the story itself weaves in some of these things, great, and it works.
The problem is that they're shooting into the sky hoping to hit the groundhog. It's not going to happen.
Yeah,
One of the big things is like it's all about focus. Like for instance, you pick out any old, new, any movie. Period. Anchorman. It was about the anchormen of the new studios. Without them, like if you started following other characters that had, what if instead of groups, it was like, hey, Anchorman, now we have to follow people of other professions, these doctors, because we want doctors to watch this. Well, why the hell is it called Anchorman? Oh, we also have a subplot not just with the doctors, but we have a subplot with these construction workers. Okay, why is it called Anchorman? Super
exactly,
Troopers. It was about the cops,
exactly.
the state police. Like if you were doing a movie, Super Troopers, about state police, but then suddenly it's like, well, what we really need to get into is the town folk, and then we're going to get into those druggy kids, and like you now have less and less of the state troopers. They're barely in the movie at that point. Why is it still called Super
Yeah,
Troopers?
because if you want to go think about it, Star Wars originally was about a rebellion, and how it went from if you want to include 1, 2, and 3, how it went from the downfall of the chosen one, Anakin Skywalker, to the beginning of the rebellion, to the successful achievement of the rebellion winning and the redemption of Anakin. That's the story right there. But then when you go, like I said, add a whole bunch of different other stuff where you're just expanding it too much. It was once a focused story and then it got unfocused. We'll put
And
it
it
that
was
way.
fine to have the separation stories. Like
Mm-hmm.
Rogue One did well.
It did.
And it was a good story, but it was an offshoot. And it said a Star Wars story. We didn't go in going, hey, this is just Star Wars. This is continuing the saga or whatever. No, it was its own separate thing. And that's fine to have separate things here and there. But then when you're like, oh, we're just bringing everything into the main series and all of this is canon, all the things that you loved about the previous stuff is no longer canon. Yeah, it got very political, and which is so funny considering how political it was at the beginning. It just went beyond. It just got to a point where it's just so convoluted and unwatchable.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, it's still a landmark piece. Each of the movies have their own merits for
Yes.
sure, and shows and shows.
100%.
Um, but it's less about Star Wars and more about the name. They're just attaching the name to whatever nonsense they want to put out.
Yes. And you know, Star Wars doesn't necessarily at all tie into comedy, but it was a nice little tangent. So,
Yes, yeah, I apologize. Yes, let's get
but
back to the comedy
but
aspects.
like when it comes to Mel Brooks, he was the king of the spoof movies. He kind of originated it and he pushed it. He when it came to race, you know
Yeah.
gender,
Blazing Saddles.
the gender, making fun of different nationalities, Robin Hood Men in Tights and stuff like that. He went for it, but he did it in a smart way, and I will give it to Mel Brooks. He did smart comedy. He really did. And I am looking forward to Spaceballs 2. Hopefully, he will be around to see it in its finished form. And I'm just saying, I will be very impressed if Spaceballs 2 pushes, the boundaries of, you know, everything.
Modern comedies. Yeah.
Modern comedy. I mean, going back to some good comedies like in the 90s that, pushed the limit. We got Ace Ventura. Granted the second one wasn't as good as the first, but it was just as raunchy as the first one. You know, this you want to go back to like late 70s, we got Stripes, another Bill Murray movie. That was very risque. It was a military kind of comedy. It had all the greats. It had, John Candy, Harold Ramis. Um, it even had female actresses like PJ Souls and oh, what's her name? She was also in Ace Ventura. Help me out here.
Oh no.
You can't remember. Anyway, she played Einhorn.
Right.
Uh, but like that, you couldn't get away with that nowadays. Probably not. But it's just it, people back then had a more open view of what's funny and what's not. You could even say like the Pink Panther movies are kind of slight comedy a little bit.
Nah, well, they were based off of things that are much older that were probably riskier than what you would put out now. Um, but no, I mean, as far as just laugh out loud comedies, I don't feel like we have too many of them. Not anymore. People just aren't
No.
willing to do it. I know that they're planning to do a sequel to Dodgeball, which Dodgeball, hilarious movie. I really enjoyed that when it came out. It was something that caught everyone off guard. Ben Stiller is fantastic. He's just a lot. Tropic Thunder, like these are movies that are laugh out loud from start to finish. But if you made those specific movies today, you're going to have problems. You're going to at least have backlash. Who's to say it would be a problem? Maybe the, the audiences that go to these movies will still enjoy them. Maybe there's still, I know I'm one of those people that are waiting for something to come out that actually is funny from start to finish. But I think because there's too much bad press that a lot of studios are avoiding it altogether.
I mean, I'll even say, you know, recently Netflix finally came out with Beverly Hills Cop 4. And I'll say that was a decent comedy movie. In my opinion, it was nowhere near as bad as freaking Happy Gilmore 2.
Yeah.
Which they've been trying to get Beverly Hills Cops 4 out for decades now. They tried with a TV series. They did a pilot of the first episode with Michael B. Jordan playing Eddie Murphy's son or Axel Foley's son in the show. Nobody wanted to take it. Nobody wanted to, put or invest money into it. Maybe because it was going back to the roots of, 80s comedy and stuff like that, being a little risky. I don't know. But you know, Beverly Hills Cop 4, it did include some of that. It was a little over the top, in my opinion, nowhere over the top as Happy Gilmore 2. But, for me, the better movie was Beverly Hills Cop 4. And yes, there was a lot of nostalgia, but that's, to be expected nowadays to try and get people to watch sequels. But
Right.
I will say I do give Netflix credit for, taking the risk on Beverly Hills Cop
At
4.
least attempting. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I even give him credit with Happy Gilmore too. You know that was a risk. In my opinion, I don't think it was a good risk, but yeah, they had the golf balls to try.
Right. And at least they went to the original source, right? You
Yeah,
had Adam Sandler helming the project.
yeah.
So at least you had him there going, hey, yeah, this is where I think it should go. even though it may not have been the best choice, he's not exactly known for being a fantastic writer. So
I mean, also it was supposed to be a completely different movie, um, but of course, we had the passing of Chubbs, even though he
yeah,
passed in the movie. You know, they had a part for him, and they had to swap it out. I don't know to what
I think
extent.
Shooter McGavin was something very different because obviously he ended up becoming the trainer.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, I did like that. That was one
I
thing I
did.
liked.
I also liked it. He had his Vegeta moment. He
Yeah,
turned around.
Vegeta. But that there are positives to Happy Gilmore too, but coming close to the first one, not even close. I will say Beverly Hills Cop 4 came at least close in my opinion to the second film. Like I felt the first Beverly Hills Cop top
All
notch.
right.
Second one a step below, then I'd say 4 and then I'd say 3's the worst.
Let's lay out your predictions then. What do you
Okay.
think about Dodgeball 2? Where do you think it's going to go?
I think it's probably going to start off about dodgeball and it's going to shift to something else. I think that's probably what it's going to
Yeah.
be, but I personally think it's not going to be that good of a movie. I don't think it's going to be. I think it might be better than Happy Gilmore 2. I think it might, but I
Oh
don't
yeah,
think
yeah.
I don't think it will live up to the first one.
I agree. I think a lot of it has to do with the time passed, right? So initially you have also um Justin Long is young in that movie.
Yes,
That's no longer a thing.
Justin
So he's
Long.
no longer he can't be the naive character. He has
Yeah,
to have evolved during that time. So as a result, you're already changing characters. Steve the Pirate better still be a pirate, assuming he's in it.
Arr,
Yeah. He kind
Alan
of made
Tudyk.
that movie like as a side character. Like he just every once in a while, Steve the Pirate. Arr, yeah, I'm a pirate. Like,
Unfortunately, we won't have Rip Torn in it, but
no. Yeah.
yeah, it is what it is. I mean, still, they might. That's another thing. They might try and like bring him back CGI or something, or they'll mention him for sure if he can dodge a rent, or they just bring back the young version of him. Because
Yeah,
remember they had
maybe.
the
Yeah.
Simpsons guy who played the
Hank
younger version of
Azaria.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
well, yeah, I mean they could, but no, I think this going to have a different focus. But as long as they keep hitting people with things, because that was the big thing, right? It was hilarious because every once in a while, the story would be getting tense, and then someone gets smacked in the face with something, a
if you can
wrench, a
dodge a wrench,
dodgeball.
you
It's
can
like
dodge a ball.
as long as they're like just out of control with that, I think it would be great. And the cameos were fantastic. David Hasselhoff, Chuck Norris, like bring them back.
Yeah, you
you
don't you
know,
don't hassle the Hoff boys.
right? Lance Armstrong was in it just out of nowhere.
Lance Armstrong.
But yeah, no, again though it also depends on how many people, first of all, original people they're going to bring back, because who's to say that they're going to get everyone back? It would be
Exactly.
nice for what's his name, Gary Cole and
Vince Vaughn.
oh no, it was Cotton and the two announcers,
I
um,
don't remember. It's been so long since I've seen that movie.
Jason Bateman. That's who it
Oh
was.
yeah, Jason Bateman. He'll be
Jason
in it.
Bateman and Gary Cole as the announcers. They were hilarious. And I feel like, I don't know this for sure, I feel like a lot of their lines were just improv. And I think that's what made this movie so well, is there was a ton of characters,
I will
but
say
they
that.
were
I will say that an underestimated like comedy mind, Jason Bateman. That guy is hilarious.
yeah.
Like I think he's good at kind of improving. Like Horrible Bosses, first one was okay. Second one I thought was a waste of time. But most of the time sequels don't do that well. Happy Gilmore too. But he was funny in that too. I mean, granted, he didn't write the script, but his delivery of the lines and everything, it worked. And
Yeah.
he's been in other funny movies. Paul, that was a great movie.
Yes.
Seth
Yep.
Rogen,
He did Game Night. That
he
was a
did
good
Game
movie
Night.
too.
That was fun. Uh, but like, get that guy some more comedic roles. I
Yeah,
think I
I
think
think
he,
he's at the point though in his career where he's writing his own stuff. He did
yeah,
Ozarks himself, and
that was great.
so and it was, yeah, he's very good at it, and he can definitely play a serious role. So I mean, I feel like if they offered it to him, he would definitely come back, cameo or not.
Yeah.
He started off what Arrested Development. That was a comedy. That was his thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't see why he wouldn't come back for that. Again, it would likely be still such a small role.
Yeah.
Um, but Vince Vaughn, Ben Stiller, and I'm pretty sure that Justin Long is coming back. As far as I've heard, that's about it.
I mean, speaking about that kind of stuff, like, getting the whole crew back together, Judd Apatow movies, like, that's where a lot of these people, not some of the ones you mentioned, but like a lot of like of the big comedy names today that we see in comedy movies came from. Like, 40-Year-Old Virgin, we had Paul Rudd, we had Seth Rogen, we had Kevin Hart, we had God, I can't even remember the main character's name.
Oh yeah, Steve Carell. Yeah,
Steve
yeah.
Carell, and so much more. Romy Malco, he was in it. We had so many.
Elizabeth Banks.
Elizabeth Banks. We had such an array of talent in that movie, and Judd Apatow likes to reuse a lot of the people he worked with, and he furthered their careers, and a lot of these people we'll see in other projects, but like it's gonna be very hard to see them all in a movie again together. For some reasons more messed up than others, but
Yeah,
the ensemble, like the great ensemble movies don't happen that much anymore either. And if they do, they turn out to not be that good. Happy Gilmore too. Um, I I can't say this, but I've never seen, what was it, Grown Ups. I never saw those movies, so I don't know if those were
it,
good at all.
they were okay.
They were
They
okay.
were it's on TV on a Saturday. I'll sit down and watch it.
Okay.
You
I
know.
mean, even some of the lighter comedies like Bill and
Oh,
Ted,
hold on. Can
yeah.
we just talk about something for a minute?
I thought we were talking about something for a few
How
minutes.
unnecessary was it Eminem's appearance in Happy Gilmore 2?
All right. First of all, I want to say this. Adam Sandler was going off on how awesome it was to shoot that. So when I saw that before I watched the movie, I'm like, all right, this is going to be great. Not needed
No.
whatsoever.
You could have
Like,
removed him from the movie completely.
yeah,
And
they're
it
like, we got the,
probably would have been a better movie for it.
he's like, we got the perfect role for you. And Eminem's like, yeah, I'll do it. It didn't do anything for me. I was just like, okay,
Even
Eminem.
him taking on the crocodiles at the end.
Yeah.
Like
It's
even just
just,
taking him out was not enough for me to go. That was worth it.
now, granted, they worked together in a Judd Apatow movie called Funny People. Spoiler alert: the movie was
Was not
not
funny.
funny at all.
Yeah.
um, but Eminem, I believe, was in that too, and his scene was kind of funny. One of the funniest points of that movie. But other than that,
Wasn't hard to do.
yeah. Other than that, like the movie wasn't that funny. But that was the only time I ever think I like was like, oh, cool, Eminem in a movie, whatever. Other than his own 8 Mile. But like, yeah, it just didn't work. But like I was saying, even the lighter comedies of like the late 80s, 90s, like I was saying, Bill and Ted, those were fun kind of little romps. You could even say even kind of Back to the Future had a little bit of fun comedy in it, a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, for
But,
sure.
that I feel like studios just don't want to take chances anymore. Yeah, granted they'll make a sequel to Bill and Ted, but they won't make a new comedy kind of pushing the boundaries.
Right. too much
And
of a risk, this,
yes,
and instead we'll make a movie that nobody wants to watch.
and I feel like Super Troopers 2 came out at a time like right at that cutoff. Like, okay, we need to kind of get out of this comedy kind of scene, but we said we're gonna do a sequel. We did the sequel. It was a decent sequel. Um, I can't say it was better than the first one, but it was close. I thought it was close to meeting its expectation, especially it had like a 15-year gap, I think, in between movies.
Yeah.
So it worked in my opinion, but you're not gonna see, at least I don't have any faith in seeing like anytime soon more. Maybe we'll get another American Pie type movie from the American Pie gang. I feel like that's gonna be like the only one that can kind of be safe
Yeah.
in that kind of realm. But we're not. I don't
But
think we're ever.
again, they're older. Like the entire prospect changes. You're not
Yeah,
getting American Pie the way it was the very first movie.
yeah. The first three movies, even.
They all have experiences now. They're all smarter. They'd have to
Yeah,
be.
I feel like you wouldn't really get any Porky's kind of movies. You wouldn't get any freaking what would you say? Even like maybe even The Hangover. You wouldn't even get movies like The Hangover or even
Super
Cheech and
bad.
Chong, Super Bad. I mean, I feel like now if you were to get a comedy, you'd get more like Mrs. Doubtfire or Naked Gun, which we're not going to see in
Yeah.
theaters just because I want to see Naked Gun, but I don't want to pay a movie ticket to go see it because I feel like this is the reason
It's a
why we're here.
disappointment that's waiting. Yeah.
Yeah, the reason why we're here today is because of Naked Gun, and more importantly, because of Happy Gilmore. If Happy Gilmore would have came out in theaters instead of on streaming, I probably would have been more inclined to go see it in theaters and maybe. And when I say see it in theaters, I'm referring to Naked Gun as well. But because of the fact that I got to sit at home and watch Happy Gilmore 2, and it just put kind of a bad taste in my mouth. I was like, I don't know if I want to see Naked Gun, even though the trailer to me makes me want to see it. But we don't know if it's the typical trailer. All the funny stuff is in the trailer, kind of
Right.
thing. Which,
Yeah, I think that's part of the problem, right? Is they've also taken a turn. Back in the day, you didn't learn the entire movie, like the entire plot progression from a trailer.
yeah.
Now they put too much in trailers, and one of the focuses for comedies is every single joke all compiled together. Like uh, when YouTube started, I remember watching the compiled jokes of certain movies, but now you could, as a joke, say, "Hey, look, here's the compiled jokes of this movie," and just show the trailer.
Yeah.
And that's it. Um, so yeah, it's one of those things that until I hear from people I trust that it is a stellar movie, then I will watch it.
That's the other thing, too. Word of mouth seems to be better, a better trustworthy source than Rotten Tomatoes or the
Yeah,
media.
critics have fallen apart. I think part of the problem now, like thank God for Rotten Tomatoes and its setup, right? Because they have the critic score and the audience score. And the audience score, especially with like major movies, is usually significantly higher than what
Or
the critics
different,
are
or
saying.
lower, or
Yeah.
lower.
Yeah, or lower. Like they'll say, "Oh no, this movie is perfect. Come watch it," and everyone watches it, and then give it a 20. And then the opposite, they'll be like, "Oh no, this movie's garbage. Don't see it." And then the audience will give it like 100%. Like, oh, okay,
Not saying that there isn't room for error. There are some people that make spam accounts to try and knock a
sure,
movie or
yeah,
prop a movie up, but for the most part, that's a decent, Libra effect. The balancing of the scales, if you want
yeah.
to
There's
call it
very
that.
few movies that the audience and um the critics kind of see eye to eye. Maybe all Chris Nolan's movies.
Yeah, I mean, see that's something. This isn't a comedy, but well, I'm saying right now, the Odyssey is going to be an amazing movie.
It does
So
look good.
I
Yep.
mean, first full movie shot in IMAX. That's gonna blow people's minds. I hope it.
Assuming you watch it in
Yeah,
IMAX.
yeah. Well, I'm gonna watch it in IMAX.
Yeah,
You'd be a fool not to, folks. But yes, getting back to the comedy here, like, and I feel like when comedies do come out too, a lot of them are remakes of
they
like
are.
older
Yeah,
comedies. Like, I guarantee something tells me Ferris Bueller's Day Off, that's gonna get remade if it hasn't already. I have a feeling that's gonna be one of those coming of age kind of movies. Even that's not even really a coming of age movie. It's just a teenager skipping out of school because he doesn't want to go to school for a day. You know,
right.
and he drags his best friend out of bed to go with him, and his girlfriend. So not his best friend's girlfriend. Whatever. But I feel like that would be one of the first movies I would get made. Like, another movie, Weird Science. They probably wouldn't remake that.
Oh no, no, that is problematic for sure. That the entire premise of that movie is problematic at this point.
Yeah, and as far
Um,
as certain sequels like Shaun of the Dead, recently in an interview, Simon Pegg was asked about it. He's like, it's not going to happen. There's no point. So stop asking him. Which I
right.
agree. Does not need a sequel. And some people just want, Simon Pegg doesn't seem like one of those people where he just wants a cash grab. It seems like he has some integrity, which is good. You know, but I mean, I would love certain sequels like
Paul 2.
Tropic Paul 2. Yeah, that'd be great. But I was gonna say more like Tropic
Tropic
Thunder,
Thunder.
a sequel to
Yeah,
it, not necessarily a sequel to the main movie, but just to have a sequel just starring freaking Tom Cruise's character would be enough for me. Because that was one of the best parts of the movie. Like, Tom Cruise, what? He can be funny, and he came up with, I think, that dance all on his own that he did in the movie. I think that was his whole idea. Um, But the Robert Downey Jr. part, he agrees. He doesn't think that could happen again, especially nowadays.
yeah,
And then there's some comedies that go over people's heads that shouldn't get a sequel, like The Big Lebowski, even though there was like a side sequel to it or whatever with another character from the movie that has nothing to do with the main movie. You know, that's one of those movies that it was kind of like, what would you call that? Like a dumb kind of funny, to where it was kind of like, I mean, because it didn't really pick up any steam until it came out on video. It was like it's like a cult classic. When it
right.
was in theaters, it didn't do very well, but when it came to TV and syndication and stuff like that, people enjoyed it. And that to me is a movie you could, make today because it wasn't too risky or whatever. But it just, a lot of people wouldn't get it.
Yeah, there's a lot that the comedy scene needs to change in order for it to get back to the good graces of most people. You
I
don't have they're never going to please everyone. That's
Everybody.
never going to happen.
I think the answer needs to be, people need
To
to
laugh again.
yes, yeah. Well, obvious.
Learn how to laugh. Stop
Live,
yeah,
laugh,
stop
love.
agonizing over every word someone says and just laugh at it. If it's not funny at all, maybe it's not your movie.
Exactly. I mean, we all go to a movie expecting one thing and then we get severely disappointed. So just remember, you're all not alone out there. We all get hyped up by something and then sometimes it turns out to not be what we expected. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't, you know, give things a chance. Especially when most part of the biggest part about comedy is trying not to take it literal or serious. It's supposed to be fun. You know, I'm not a perfect person. You're not a perfect person. We as friends, we make fun of certain things about each other, but we all know it's in fun. It's not. We're not trying to really hurt each other's feelings or anything, kind of thing. You know, us, we know that ourselves. And when the movie's doing it, it's not. It's kind of like the same thing. It's not trying to poke fun at somebody on purpose for the most part. It's trying to point out something that is kind of like a little ridiculous in certain points, and you're supposed to
Right.
kind of
There's
like laugh at it,
layers
be like,
to a lot of
yeah,
these jokes. Yeah. I think that's also part of the problem is that people will take them out of context, right? Some people won't actually see the movie. They'll just see a clip of a joke and they're like, "Oh, okay, that does look shady," but you didn't see what happened before and what happens after the
Yes.
joke. There's context.
Yes, there's a lot of sound bites. It goes with kind of like everything nowadays. We just hear part of the story and then our opinion is based on that part of the story. Um, One thing I am always an advocate of is watch it yourself or listen to it yourself or experience it yourself before you create an opinion about it. So, because in reality, you can't really have an opinion on something you don't know.
Right?
So I guess that's some food for thought for this episode here. Is just kind of like take the time to process things and experience things. And if it's not your cup of tea, then it's not your cup of tea. And then vocalize it after you've experienced it, not beforehand, I guess you could say. Um, and as far as comedy goes, I really would like to see more studios take risks again, not just with comedy, but with, new stories, and stuff like that, because sometimes the best stories are those that we haven't seen yet. And I really think that there's a lot of creative people out there, you and myself included there, that, have something we want to say, but not necessarily someone that wants to take a chance on it.
Yeah,
And that's we really need more people out there to take chances, because if you don't shoot your best thing here is you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
right.
And that goes with movie studios. They could have had like the movie of the century in front of them, and because it was something new and maybe they didn't totally understand it, or maybe, you know someone didn't describe it well enough to them, it's thrown out or whatever, and it'll never see the light of day. But that could have been the movie. That could have been it. That could have been the next Star Wars. That could have been the next
Right.
Star Trek, the next Lord of the Rings, the next Christopher Nolan movie. It could have been that next big hit, and they passed on it. So
Because of certain people's opinions. Here's some words of wisdom coming here from Chris Sambrook. Opinions are like buttholes. Everyone has them, but not every butthole is going to be groundbreaking. So maybe sometimes keep your butthole to yourself.
uh that's very eloquently put there, sir.
There you go.
um and that's basically it for this episode. We just wanted to kind of touch on the state of comedy right now. We hope, you know, not just we're not just saying raunchy comedy or, situational comedy. We're talking about all comedy. We hope that comedy itself can be brought back to the forefront of cinema in a way that everybody can be happy and everybody can be unhappy at the same time.
We need more laughs. We need more
Yes.
laughs as a society. We need more laughs, period. Let's just allow people to make things funny so that we can then enjoy them.
And then afterwards, we can all talk crap about it.
Yeah, that's what
So,
the comment section is for.
exactly. The internet, folks, it's a wonderful thing. So, that's about it for this episode. If you guys are new, we are Plot Hole Productions. You can find us on Instagram and YouTube, along with here in the Spotify universe. But with that said, I think it's time we get out of here, Chris. So
Yep.
I'm your host, Nate Slater,
And I'm Chris Sambrook, and we'll
and we'll
catch
catch
you
you in the
in the
void.
void.